Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into some profound and I think surprisingly timely ancient sources. We're basically excavating prophecies that address that central human dilemma. Where does true power actually reside? And what can possibly last forever?
It's a huge question.
It is. And our sources, they give us this detailed blueprint of the rise and, more importantly, the inevitable fall of pretty much every human-driven system. We have this incredible geopolitical prophecy from the Babylonian court laid out in the book of Daniel.
Right.
And that's starkly contrasted with, later predictions from Luke about the guaranteed destruction of the greatest physical structure of the age, the Jerusalem temple.
This was a huge deal.
A huge deal. So the mission is simple: to stop looking for stability in the temporary things we build, be they political alliances, massive economies, or even architecture that seems like it'll last forever, and figure out where our confidence should truly be anchored.
That's right. I mean, these sources aren't just historical curiosities. They offer this unified philosophical stance on permanence. We have the complex symbolism of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, this terrifying statue that represents the entirety of sequential earthly empires.
Terrifying is the right word.
And then Jesus' explicit warnings about widespread global turmoil. So our analysis, it really hinges on synthesizing these warnings to answer that core question. What defines stability when everything around you is constantly changing or fragmenting or just crumbling?
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then with that image from Daniel chapter 2, the colossal statue. The king saw something described as very large, exceedingly bright, and terrifying in appearance. It wasn't built out of one material. It was this compound image representing an unbroken sequence of human power, but with a distinct downward trajectory.
What's fascinating here is the sheer elegance of the political analysis. This isn't just a list of materials. It's a commentary on the corrosive nature of power over time.
So walk us through that trend, because we start at the top, right? The head. That was pure gold.
Pure gold. And that represents Nebuchadnezzar himself, the King of Kings, given absolute dominion and glory. It's the peak of quality, of purity, and centralized authority.
The gold standard, literally.
Literally. But then every subsequent kingdom represents a fall from that standard. The next layer, the chest and arms, is made of silver. It's inferior in value, but you could argue it's maybe broader in its reach.
Okay, and then we get to the belly and thighs of bronze. So that's a third kingdom. Again, we're seeing diminished intrinsic value, but the source says it will rule over the whole earth.
Right. It seems to suggest that as the value declines, the scope of, let's say, military reach expands.
Which is a fascinating observation on its own.
It is, and that trajectory culminates in the legs of iron. Iron symbolizes the fourth kingdom, and here we see a shift from valuable metals to just pure, crushing brutality. The source emphasizes that this iron kingdom shall break in pieces and subdue all these others. It acts with absolute ruthless power.
So that's the highest point of military strength, but it's coupled with the lowest point of governance quality.
Precisely. It's a pretty devastating analysis of how unchecked human empire evolves over time.
We have this sequence then. Centralized quality goes down, but centralized brutality goes up. But the story of human power doesn't end there. The strength of the iron then gives way to, I think, the most critical symbolic detail in the entire vision.
The feet, this is where the structural integrity fails completely, and this detail is, it's hugely relevant to us right now. The feet and toes were a mixture of iron and tile, or clay.
So it's not a single unified kingdom anymore. It's a divided, fragmented system.
A fragmented system where some parts retain that crushing strength of iron, but others are entirely fragile, like soft clay.
And here's one of those incredibly specific, sticky images that just makes this source material so compelling. The prediction is that these fragmented rulers will try to seal their alliances through intermarriage or diplomatic pacts.
But they will fail. They will fail to stay united any more than iron mixes with clay. They are fundamentally incompatible, but they're sort of fused together by necessity.
That imagery, the powerful iron trying to permanently bond with fragile clay, it's just the perfect metaphor for failed geopolitical mergers or uneasy modern alliances.
And internal political fragmentation, which plagues every single era. It shows that human efforts to engineer permanent stability are just doomed by their own inherent contradictions.
The fragmentation is built right into the system itself.
Absolutely. This prophecy is telling us that attempts to establish some kind of enduring global harmony based on human power will always fail, because the foundation is internally inconsistent. They just lack the integrity of that gold head and instead rely on temporary brittle structures.
But all of that, the gold, silver, bronze, iron, the mixed clay, it's all just the backdrop for the moment of ultimate intervention. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the prophecy shifts completely. It moves from sequential human empire to a cosmic final statement on what permanence really is.
From human failure to divine sovereignty.
Exactly.
This is where we see the introduction of the stone, the ultimate disruptor. And the source makes it very clear. It's a stone, hewn from a mountain without a hand being put to it. End quote. So it's not a product of human craft or human military might or human diplomacy. It's entirely outside the realm of the statue's materials.
And crucially, it doesn't just chip away at the head of gold or the strong iron legs. It strikes the statue right at its weakest point, those feet of mixed iron and clay. But the destruction that results is total.
The suddenness is just astonishing. When the feet shatter, the iron, the tile, the bronze, silver, and gold all crumble at the same time. They become fine as the chaff on the threshing floor in summer.
I mean, just imagine that. The magnitude of all those world empires being reduced to dust so fine that the wind just carries it away.
But without a trace, there's no historical residue left behind. Every single layer of human ambition is just annihilated at once.
And the stone itself, it changes. It doesn't remain just a disruptive weapon. It becomes a great mountain and filled the whole earth. That's the pivot point. It replaces those temporary fragmented empires with something monolithic, eternal.
And the interpretation Daniel gives is presented as absolutely certain. This stone represents a kingdom set up by the God of heaven that shall never be destroyed or delivered up to another people. Right. It will break in pieces all these kingdoms and put an end to them, and it shall stand forever. The vision isn't about, reforming the statue. It's about replacing it entirely with an eternal system.
The radical contrast couldn't be clearer for you, for the listener. You have the statue, the symbol of temporary, intrinsically flawed human power, destined for total erasure, versus the mountain, representing eternal, unified, divine power. The question the text poses is fundamentally strategic. Where do you invest your precious time and your hope? This theme of impermanence, it carries us perfectly into our next source. If Daniel showed us the inherent failure of political power, Luke shows us the guaranteed destruction of even the most sacred and physically impressive human structures. We pivot to the New Testament, where Jesus addresses the impressive temple in Jerusalem.
And the temple complex was the absolute apex of earthly glory at that time. I mean, it was a staggering feat of architecture. People were genuinely in awe, marveling at how it was adorned with costly stones and votive offerings. It was designed to represent stability, eternal devotion, the ultimate earthly anchor.
And Jesus' response just cuts through all of that awe immediately. He looked at this testament to human piety and architectural genius and said simply, "All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down."
It's an incredibly potent and deeply shocking image. It's not a prediction of remodeling or decay. It's a promise of total physical erasure. And this naturally sends the disciples into a panic. They immediately want a timeline. When will this happen and what sign will there be?
And Jesus doesn't give them a clock. He gives them a compass. He warns them first not to be deceived by false prophets claiming to be the Messiah or saying, "The time has come."
Right, the priority is avoiding spiritual deception first.
Exactly.
Then he lays out a list of specific global signs of turmoil that act as precursors. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these signs aren't just isolated accidents. They represent the complete system breakdown of the world that the statue represented.
So what are they?
First, political and military chaos. Wars and insurrections, nation rising against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. It's the fragmentation predicted by the iron mixed with clay, but accelerating on a global scale.
But the chaos extends beyond just military lines. The sources then list natural and systemic disasters, powerful earthquakes, famines, and plagues from place to place.
And then, topping off this vision of terror, awesome sights and mighty signs will come from the sky.
It's a picture of comprehensive global distress, geopolitical, ecological, and atmospheric.
But the crucial analytical point is the emotional instruction embedded right in the middle of this chaos. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified.
That instruction is the key linkage between Daniel and Luke. You are guaranteed to see political fragmentation and the collapse of glorious human monuments. You are guaranteed to experience global turmoil. But you are explicitly told not to respond with terror. Why?
Because these events must happen first but it will not immediately be the end. They're symptoms, not the final destination.
Which is why the source material includes that powerful counterweight from Psalm 46. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold.
Exactly. It offers a reference point of stability that is entirely separate from the crumbling political and physical world. The anchor is the enduring presence of the divine, not the temporary strength of human efforts.
Okay, let's pull all this together now, because both the Daniel prophecy about crumbling empires and the Luke passage about the crumbling temple, they share a single urgent directive for the listener.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the message is that human attempts at enduring security are always destined to fail. Whether it's the gold head of a world ruler, the iron legions of a superpower, or the costly stones of a consecrated temple, all earthly structures have an expiry date.
They're temporary. They will fragment or be thrown down.
Guaranteed.
So the stability we're all seeking, it cannot be found in successful political mergers or massive architectural projects or impressive military might. It has to be found somewhere else.
The synthesis here urges us to completely shift our focus. Anchor your heart in what is eternal. The call is to stay awake spiritually, which means processing the inevitable global chaos, the wars, the plagues, the fragmentation, through a lens of faith and knowledge, rather than reacting with paralyzing fear. It's about placing confidence in God's enduring presence to face uncertainty with courage and hope.
That insight also transforms the meaning of obedience and loyalty. It's not just about prediction, it's about your response.
Exactly. When you look at the support texts, they describe how people of faith react when everything around them is on fire.
And the response is active, not passive.
Yeah.
Look at the challenge embedded in Daniel 3. It calls for all creation, all works, heavens, waters, and hosts to praise and exalt him above all forever. This is an act of praise regardless of external circumstances, regardless of the king's decree or the instability of the moment.
And Revelation 2 sharpens that focus on commitment. The instruction is crystal clear, demanding endurance in the face of maximum political or physical pressure. Remain faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life. The focus is on enduring loyalty to the eternal source, not on successfully navigating temporary human structures.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now, just trying to make sense of a chaotic world? I think it's a challenge to reevaluate where you are putting your primary investment. Are you prioritizing the temporary iron mixed with clay, the divided, fragile kingdoms attempting political fixes? Or are you focusing on the stone that is guaranteed to become the mountain?
The source material really forces a very practical introspection, turning this knowledge into actionable wisdom. The implicit challenge is, given that I know human alliances are temporary and physical glory is perishable, what specific act of faith or courage can I take today to prove that my trust is rooted in the eternal, not in the temporary things that are guaranteed to fail? And that moves the conversation from ancient history to immediate life strategy.
The great God has revealed what shall be in the future, and its meaning is sure. We know the fate of the gold, the iron, and the costly stones. Given the certainty that all human alliances and political structures, perfectly represented by the iron mixed with clay, will ultimately fail to stay united, what is the most strategically wise place to invest your energy, your resources, and your hope right now? The kingdom that stands forever.